All right, welcome everyone. We are back. It's been a while, or maybe it hasn't. This one will be a hopefully shorter today. I just finished this really cool book by Lorraine Lee, and I think a lot of early career folks can definitely take a lot out of this. And so I'll just be highlighting, as usual, some of my favorite parts of the book, um, having some commentary. But please, please, please go check it out. Go give it a read. I think it's an amazing book. Um, and so, yeah, this book is called Unforgettable Presence. I think it was just released about a month ago. And if you haven't already been following Lorraine, please follow her on LinkedIn. She's great, and definitely grab the book. All right, let's jump in. The book talks about one of the things that the book starts off is this mindset shift, which I learned later in my career, and it's this idea of what we like to say. She says like how to become the CEO of your own career. And I'll read the quote here. It says, many of us move through our careers believing certain truth, right? Like, and I've done this too. And an example she gives is like, I will get promoted after 3 years because I will have paid my dues. And so these are these assumptions that we have. Or she says, hey, my boss will remember my goals and do everything they can to help me to get there. And I'll just continue to read this paragraph because I think it was really helpful for me. It says, it's not hard to understand why. As we go through our school years, we're told what to do by our authority figures in order to succeed. When we enter the working world, it can be easy to assume that there's, be at least some clear path forward. She goes on to share some ideas of like how to start to shift that mindset. So, like an example, she continues to say this says a lot of people sit down and they think, "Hey, hard work alone will pay off." That's sort of mindset. So, if this is like one of those mindset you might have that says, "Hey, hard work alone will pay off." So that's the before, but then the after. She says, one way to flip that is to say, if no one sees my work, it will be like I didn't do it. I need to actively share my accomplishment. So just this is how she's sharing. How do you become, sort of the CEO of your career? So a lot of young people, they come and they said, hey, um, they have this mindset of like, if I just work hard enough, will I be successful? Will it just pay off? And one of those mindset shifts is to understand that, it honestly, she's saying like, if no one sees your work, it will be like it didn't happen. The other one she shares is like a lot of people just come and just think, hey, my network will naturally grow. And then a different reframe for that is that I need to make sure I'm actively building relationships, not just, when I need something. This is one a lot of people think through. There's another one. It says feedback comes during annual reviews, but a nice reframe is that feedback should be continuous if you want to grow faster. And one of the last ones she shares this idea that, hey, promotions and raises happen with enough time. And I see this happening so much. I've made these mistakes in the past. But one of the refrain is that I need to advocate for myself at every opportunity I get. So I really love some of these things. She mentioned something in this book that was near and dear to my heart. She talks about how certain things show up as underrepresented groups. And as an underrepresented person myself, I tend to be in the scenario where talking about my work is not necessarily, it doesn't come as easy for me. And she says, for those coming from an underrepresented group, it can be difficult to adopt this mindset shift. For her, she's Asian American, and her culture is more communal than individualistic and teaches humility and deference to authority. And I see that coming from Jamaica, where it's just totally humility. You don't boast about your work. She goes on to say, my upbringing, combined with her introverted nature, and her desire to not mess up the opportunity, made her nervous to stand out. And so a lot of the content that I share is just giving other people an insight into my life and how I've gotten to where I've at. And I hope it inspires at least one person to say, hey, I saw your content or the thing that you shared, and it helped me to become even just stood out a little bit more. I hope it inspires people along the way. All right. I do like when she said one of the first steps here is like deciding what's authentic for you. And she had a quote from Kim Scott and this in Radical Candor, and it says, "Hey, make sure that you're having a positive impact without losing yourself." This is a good tension. Like we all, when I interview people right now, Everyone wants to have an impact. But what I tend to see is that you want to do that without losing yourself. It says it's useful to have real human relationships at work because that will create a feeling that it's safe for you to show up, as who you are. So I love some of these things, and some of the tactical point. Let's see. There's a line here that I constantly come back to. She says, "We doubt ourselves and we hide our true point of view because we're afraid of being judged or mistreated." And I'll go back and just say this. It says, "We doubt ourselves and we hide our true point of view because we're afraid of being judged or mistreated." So I love some of these things that she shares. I'm just going to go through and finish a couple more. This is the other thing. Like when you're starting to build your own brand, she says it's always important to recognize, when you're changing your brand or developing your brand, it takes more repetition in people's mind than you think is necessary. I think that's interesting. One of the things she shares here that I've constantly been thinking about, as well over the last years, is decide how you want to be seen. So once you kind of decide how you want to be seen, you can work backwards and say, where am I today? How do I want to be seen and showing up? Because eventually that's what true leadership is. It's how you're viewed. And then you can decide the steps that you need to take to get there. All right. Do you have, let's see, she talks about this idea of minimizing words. I think it's really important. One of the things that she mentioned is like we use the word just a lot in our speech. Let me just show this to you because I do think this is important. Some of the minimizing language we use. And so this idea of, we tend to say in some presentation, hey, does this make sense? And she says, instead of that, we could try and come across a bit more confident by saying, let me know if you have any questions. Another example is, sorry if I'm late. And we can change this and say, thank you for your patience. And then one of the other ones that I really like, oftentimes when someone asks your opinion, it says, I feel we should. And she's saying here, we should definitely flip it and said, my recommendation is. Really cool. And I love sharing these like very practical tips of how to change your language and be more confident. There's also another really good tip here that she's received, and it comes on, I think this could have outsized, always think about like outsized impact in what we do. So for a speech, there's a 60x rule. So for, you want to practice every hour, an hour for every minute that you're going to give a speech. And I think this could apply to so many different scenarios, not just in giving a speech, but I wonder, any major presentation. I wonder how many salespeople have taken this. I'm in sales, so I'm constantly bringing it back. Like when you have something big, how much are you practicing versus just treating it that like it's just another thing? So I think that's really cool. And then one of the last framework that she shared that I really enjoy and I need to implement it a little bit more is, obviously you want to have the before and after. So when you're thinking about a presentation, where are people today? Or where do you want to take them? What are they thinking? What are they doing? And what do they feel? And can you move them from now, a before and after between their think, do, and feel? All right. The last thing I will share about this book, I said so much in there. Please go check out the book. Towards the end, it talks about managing up, a lot of stuff there. And I think if you're thinking about getting into management or even in middle management, is great. There was a quote there by Wes, co-founder of Maven, and it says, managing up means you're not expecting your manager to have everything nicely defined, packaged up, and placed on a silver platter on your desk. So I think she goes on and says, hey, it's easy to forget that your manager has a lot of other things going on, probably several other teammates, have their own needs, navigating their own career. We shouldn't expect or want our managers to be the single point of failure for our careers. And I think this is so beautifully put. I think it's a great book reference point for folks who want to show up, want to have more executive presence, especially early career folks who are trying to understand, how do I do this? How do I fit in? How do I show up? Hopefully this was helpful. Thank you, Lorraine. Again, this is a beautiful book. Shout out to you. All right. See you, everyone.